Hi, welcome to the Pints Polishing Podcast. I'm Marshall. That's Nick. Hey, that's Brian too. Welcome back, Brian, for another great episode. Listen, you can find us at hypercleanstore.com if you want to check out the hyperCLEAN products. If you want to interact with all three of us, go over to the specialist group in Facebook, hyperCLEAN Specialist Group. And soon to be, you can actually order direct from Brian. Brian is already one of our distributors. If you're up in the Northeast and you got questions about hyperCLEAN, make sure you get in touch with him. You can order directly from him. So welcome back, Brian. Thanks again for coming in, spending your time with the community, and recording another episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
I'm really excited as we continue to do these for a big reason, right? 60 is a number that comes to my mind. 60 plus years combined together with the three of us, right? We have probably more experience on this panel than any other auto detailing podcast that you'll ever find, right? It's awesome. So a lot of good information that we're going to get into today, a lot of minds that are going to have plenty of experience. So, hey, listen, let's go into an in-depth discussion on customers, right? This is where it gets crazy because we're going to go through experiences. We're going to go through a lot of stuff. Let's start with a post, all right? We're all in the specialist group, and we've got a post that is from Bruce, and I love it. Bruce feels sorry for one of his customers, and I thought this would put us all into this interesting situation. All right, 20 plus years each. You got a customer that you've done a little head scratch and gone, hey, man, I thought we talked about this, or I thought we did it. You went your own way, right? Like, you went ahead and did your own thing. Cool. There was a time, Nick, you probably used to get mad about that. Then you probably went, I feel sorry for these people. And then you journeyed and went, you know what? I don't really feel sorry for them anymore. How is that little thing for you?
Yeah, I've actually had it where people were sitting at a dealership, called me for advice, and ignored the advice. I mean, it's happened directly to me. I'm sure you guys have similar little stories where you told somebody not to do something when they went and bought a car, and they did it anyway. You know, the biggest thing around us right now is PPF. They put these partial hoods on and crap PPF and, you know, on expensive cars. I mean, we're going to be ripping PPF off of a $285,000 Range Rover autobiography that the dealership charged my customer. They were told not to. They hit it on the bill, and all this other stuff happens, and they were taken advantage of. But a lot of times I think all of us understand that they weren't actually, most people aren't being taken advantage of. If you walk into a dealership and you think to yourself, the dealership is a bad place, which, you know, what's the connotation about salesmen that goes around the whole world? It comes out of the car dealership world. So if you walk into one of those places and you already know it's a bad place to do business, how do you get taken advantage of? It happens every day. And I've literally had customers call me sitting at the dealership and ignore the things I told them, and then get mad after the fact when they realize they, you know, signed up for something that wasn't worth anything. What do you do? There's a part of this where consumers have to be responsible for their decisions, but I'm with Bruce. Do I feel bad for some of them? Yeah, some of them do get taken advantage of, and usually if they have somebody in their corner, they can get it figured out. But some people go in there willingly knowing this is a bad place to do business, and then they don't protect themselves. So what are you supposed to say at the end of the day?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Nick. It's one of those things people like know how a dealership works. When it comes to buying the car, they want to like, well, I'm not going to get ripped off buying the car. I'm not going to pay too much for the car. I want, you know, I get some money off. But then after the sale, they have complete trust in the dealership. I mean, that buying whatever extra packages for interior protection, ceramic coating, whether it's a service package, there's a complete trust then, which is fine. But then if it doesn't work out for you, it's kind of your fault. And you can only feel so bad for people because you have a certain expectation of how it's going to work out, especially when they do ask you. Like, it happens 1,000 times, like Nick said. People ask your opinion, you give them an opinion, they don't listen to it, and then afterwards they're bothered that it didn't work out or it worked out like how you said it was going to work out. You can't feel sorry for somebody like that. It's just what happens. It's why you ask around. It's why you ask people's opinion that are professional or have experience in the situation. But a lot of people just don't. They have their answer that they want, and it doesn't matter what you say. They're going to do it, and they're going to complain afterwards when it doesn't work out.
Yeah, Nick. I used to think that too. Like I have this perspective of dealerships, right? Bad, right? Being from a detailer then to a car wash operator, right? Like the dealership was just the competition. So we would automatically assume that it was just, and you would always talk about the bad things that your competitor would do. Well, there was a moment where then I got into chemicals and working, selling chemicals to dealerships. I started to go, right? Like there began to open my eyes a little bit to their dynamics, to the way they work, to the way they sell, to the programs that are built into their, not only their dealership, the back end, everything you talk about, paperwork and everything that goes into selling something at a dealership, right? And I used to almost feel bad for people that dealt. And then I did start to change, and I came around and so much to where I go, hey, is it my fault that somebody buys something that doesn't last? Well, in this whole area, is it my fault? No, it's not my fault. Maybe I should stop thinking that way of going, hey, you guys. I go, listen, if you do it above board, right, there becomes part of it, making sure you do it above board, why not join? And so what I started doing was sell products through the dealership and through the finance department. Hey, if paperwork was right, I did my job to go train the detailer staff. I did my job to train the finance staff. I did my job to train everybody, and the paperwork's all right. Well, what
else can you do?
Why can't I be happy about that?
Yeah. So we've gotten into a world where we want to blame everybody else, right? The three of us talk about this a lot, just because you may have this conversation with family or colleagues or, people inside your business. Not everything is everyone else's fault, right? If you walk into a dealership, they have to lay the paperwork out in front of you. You've never been to a dealership where you didn't see a bunch of paperwork. That could be on a computer, an iPad, or actual paperwork. I've done at this point in time probably pretty close to over 1,000 car deals. I would assume way over that. I don't want to say a ton over that, but at least every time something wasn't disclosed, we got the money back because we were watching what it was supposed to be. So if you know what you're doing, or you hire somebody to help you, or you call a guy like Brian, or you call Marshall or myself, and you're going to go buy a car and we tell you not to do these things, but you do them, even when advice is the other way, did the dealership actually do something wrong? Now, I don't think the dealership is always above board, and we've certainly caught that in my experience of buying cars for customers and myself and whatever. But remember, there's always a paper trail. There's always a paper trail. And the reason there's a paper trail is it's one of the most regulated industries, state by state. I mean, they have lemon laws that are really punitive to dealerships. And this is on brand new cars, right? I know guys that have gotten brand new trucks, brand new cars, taken it back. If you go to the dealership a certain number of times and they can't solve this issue, it falls under the lemon law. So we can't act as if dealerships or those individuals aren't held to a standard. It may not be what we think it should be, but if you have something happen at a dealership and you sign the paperwork was there. Otherwise, that company is in a major lawsuit with a lot of people sooner or later. So if you walk into a big, beautiful dealership and you try to tell me that the paperwork is not there and the paper trail is not there, you have a case against them. But most of the time when I get the paperwork from the customer, I go, they disclosed it here, you initialed here, you signed here. Again, I know it's easy to feel bad, but at the same time, there's so much it's like signing for a mortgage. There's 10,000 pages. They disclosed it to you. Whether you read it or not is not on them at that point. Right. And that's where we have to get customers, number one, to call people like us. But you also got to be okay with most of these people are not going to do what? They're not actually going to listen, and they're still going to do it their way. And then they're still going to be pissed off that this happened at the dealership. And where's the personal responsibility in that?
Yeah, that is the question, right? Who's at fault? Interesting, right? So we do, which you talked about in the previous episode, right? Like a end of year type of, you go back and look at things, right? I think most of us all at least take a little bit of a moment to kind of pause for a moment and reflect. At least we all should. I do the same thing, and I do it just a little bit different. You saw it, you were here, you're actually on it. There's a banner right here on the wall, right? From years ago, and it's got pictures of all kinds of people on there. All kinds of people that we used to work with and used to talk through and used to deal with. And, I like to look at them, and I like to look and see, okay, well, where's everybody that's been around us? Where are they? That's always a thing that I like to do. So it's interesting as you start to think about customers. You guys probably even have not just customers. We talk about dealerships and talk about that. You got customers that will just go their own direction altogether, not just dealerships. They might choose another detailer. This is Brian. How many times have you heard when people come in to your store or detailers that you work with, I have to battle that guy, or there's that other guy, or, there's all these people, and I had a customer that this and a customer that. Have you ever seen a customer that left another detailer's card was left in your customer's car? That gets under a lot of detailer skin, doesn't it?
Yeah, but a true customer is not going to leave unless there's an issue. And their issue might be as dumb as they're just cheap and they want a cheaper price. They might not until they find out they're not getting a better job. But you're never going to steal a customer from another detailer. If the customer is happy and you're providing good service and everything's fine, there's a reason that a customer is going to leave or use another detailer. So if you're really concerned about people stealing your customers, or like something like that might happen, then you obviously have some concerns about what you're doing yourself. And there might be some thoughts in your head like, maybe I'm not doing as much as he's doing, so I might lose him. And that is a possibility. Yeah. But if everything's on the up and up, then there's no reason for a customer to leave. I mean, why would he? I mean, I wouldn't leave if I'm happy with service I'm receiving from somewhere, just because some guy stops by and says, hey, we do heating and air too. Okay, well, that's great. I have a heating and air guy. He's been my guy for 20 years, so I'm fine. I'm not going to be like, oh, there's a new guy. I'm going to use him. Well, he's 5% cheaper. Let me switch. That doesn't really happen. So it is strange when everyone's worried about somebody's stealing this, somebody's stealing that. There's always a reason. It's not stealing, but a customer moves on or goes another route. We have people that, we just do ceramic coatings for, and somebody else washes their car, and that's fine. They use somebody else to service their vehicle, and then we do all their ceramic coatings, or vice versa. We have somebody wash and somebody ceramic coats them. It's just, people feel comfortable a certain way, and that's fine. And it just is what it is. But as far as stealing, it's a very weird thing in the industry. But you do see it all the time. People, you could be, Nick's been mobile forever. You can be, working in a parking lot, and you have a customer you have for 10 years, you start washing their car in the parking lot when another guy's there. They're paranoid, like, what are you doing here? This is where I work, or these are my customers, or whatever the case would be.
You always find the people worried about this compete on one thing, which is price, right? They think everything's a price battle. And I promise it's not a price battle, okay? It is a price battle with certain individuals and certain customers. And the longer you're in business, you're going to weed those customers out, right? That's what you're going to do. That's what Marty's going to do. That's what Brian's going to do. That's what I'm going to do. When you first start out, you get this thought process that your customer is your customer. Not really. Your customer is your customer as long as they're spending money with you. And I don't worry about it outside of that. And what you see a lot of times is guys that are established don't care. Like, if this guy's working in a parking lot, work in a parking lot. It doesn't matter to me. We have a tint shop 2 doors down that may do some overlapping services. I mean, matter of fact, he uses another detailer to come in there for people that ask for details. Great. Marty, the guy that details. Good for him. Okay. I also watch them use detail spray and wipe the cars down and not wash them. It's not the same. It's not the customer I'm looking for. Okay. I'm perfectly happy you have that customer. And some of them are nice cars. This is what people don't realize. It's not always the guy with the Honda Civic or the cheap car. There's people driving, S600 Benzes that are getting detail spray wipe downs from somebody, 2 doors down from me. That's fine. I think, guys, when you're insecure about what you're doing, you tend to really look at these things. For me, I know we provide a value to the customer, and that customer may not be my customer, and that's okay. I have a city with 1 million people. If you have a city of 50,000 people, think about how many cars that is. Don't tell me there's not enough customers for the amount of detailers. That isn't true. There's enough customers for everyone, and getting fixated on somebody left a card behind, or that's what the guy's supposed to do. That's what I've done in my career. I see a nice car. I have a flyer or whatever. I put it in the windshield, put it in the door, whatever. That's what the guy's supposed to do. So what you know is somebody in your area is hustling. Okay, big deal. If you're doing all the right things, you don't care that somebody else is in your area hustling their business. It's what goes on. But you also got to ask yourself, do you really have customers, or are you the one competing on, I'm the lowest priced guy, I can't believe this customer would go away from me? Well, the lowest priced guy, that is the guy that's going to get attacked by somebody who's willing to do it for $5 cheaper, $100 cheaper, whatever the number is.
Well, usually because they probably got that job by being the lowest price guy. Like, they might have that customer now because they went in and, they came in $10, $20 cheaper than somebody else. And that customer is already using somebody, but they came in like, well, I'll do it for $20 less, or this is how we are and this is how cheap we are. And they got that customer that way. So now they're definitely fearful. Like, well, this customer is going to go somewhere if the price is better, or, it might not even be service. They are, like you said, just price shopping. And if you don't operate that way, you don't worry about it. Like Nick said, it's a different level when you know that the customer is there because of you. The customer wants your company doing the work. And if there's an issue, then it's an understandable issue that they're probably going to leave because, whether they feel they're getting bad service, or, they're just not happy with the work, or what's being performed. But usually once you get up there, the price thing isn't such an issue. And like Nick said, if it's a price thing, then you're probably okay losing them because it's always going to be an issue.
All right. You said get up there, and you talked in a sense of it took you a little bit.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes you a moment to kind of you said there was even, I think, a point of relaxation, right? Like where you could almost relax and go, hey, if you guys are going to do that, you do you, we're going to continue to do what we do as a company. And that's the key, right? Becomes actually a journey for all of us to understand that we need to get to a point in business where we can have a little bit of relaxation to go, I'm doing what I know is best. I'm doing what's best for my customers. If a customer chooses to go a different direction, that's on them. And that's extremely difficult, isn't it? Because I mentioned, I look at, and I leave it up because there's part of me that wants to look at it and go, hey, I know that guy. I know that he has gone in a different direction. And there was a moment I used to take personal offense to it, right? I used to get upset. I used to want, okay, right? And you were like, I got to go. How'd you get to the point, Brian, like to relax? Is that just time? And to your point, you got to get your business up to 125,000. Is there a formula where you think somebody could get to the relaxation?
It's definitely money. I mean, once you hit a certain point of you're not chasing money, you're not worried about that next job. That's where price comes into, where guys start worrying about, man, I need work next week, or I need this. That's when the prices, you'll start seeing them change rapidly. Deals will be made, and, prices coming down when they need work. If you have enough money there and you're okay, let's say you don't work for 2-3 weeks, but you're okay. And you're like, well, I'll keep my prices the same, double down on some advertising. I'm going to work with what I have, hit the streets, go out there and hustle. But these are my prices. This is where I'm at. Now, if somehow you're just completely out of whack and you just don't have business and your customers are telling you are just way too expensive for what we're being provided, then yeah, you need to change stuff. But usually it's rare that's ever the case where you see it. I mean, you do see it where these guys are relying on, 5-year coatings, 8-year coatings, and charging $4,000 and just relying on that top tier bill, and that's going to get them through because that's stopping. I mean, everybody sees that has already stopped. It's just not there. But if you're going to sit there and rely on, changing your prices constantly or being the cheapest guy, you're never going to be comfortable, because you're always going to be chasing the dollar. You're always going to be trying to find that next job. And your customers don't really have comfort either when the price is completely changing. It's tough for a customer when they just paid you, $1,000 on Monday, and on Wednesday you got priced for $600 because you're trying to fill your books or something. And when customers find out about that, and they do, they're like, well, crap, I just paid $1,000. What? How often does this happen? Then they see it's like a thing. Well, I should just wait until the $600 deal. It's tough.
And we've talked about this. Brian's so right about this. We've talked to guys about, on your correction packages, go to a 3-package system. So guys, so your customer understands, right? Mm-hmm. So there becomes this part when you kind of look at all of this, from above and have experience in the business, is that guys, Brian talked about this on an episode where guys have all this a la carte. They almost have a binder full of what their pricing is.
It's like a diamond.
And it's like, your pricing's not out of whack. They don't understand what you're selling, right? So if anything in your business makes you feel uncomfortable, then we all know on this podcast the customer's not going to buy because you're uncomfortable, because you're trying to like nickel and dime them. Dog hair removal is like one of these things. You give somebody a complete interior detailing price, you get there and dog hair is a problem, and now you want to upcharge them $300 because there's dog hair everywhere. You either need to walk away from that job or you need to adjust your pricing where you feel comfortable. If I run into this, look, man, I'm going to take a little hit on this job time-wise. I'm still going to make good money. It is what it is. But if you have this whole a la carte mindset, the reason you're so uncomfortable with people leaving a business card behind is why. You're uncomfortable with how you're pricing people, and it doesn't have to do with the price. It has to do with you're not simplifying things for your customer. So the number one thing, Marty, when we talk to a guy that's struggling, we can say this individually. Almost all the time, they don't have their packages in order. So they're not easy to understand. They're not easy for people to get in business with them. And we would go with a 4-coding system. All right, so you have a 4-package system, right? You have a wash clay Uno, then you have a 1-step in Uno, then you have whatever tier you want to go to. If you're only going to do 1, 2, and 3 year coatings, you do that 1, 2, and 3 year. There's 4 packages. All 1-step correction, you're done.
Right.
But then guys are like, well, then I need a $5,000 package. And we've heard this argument. And it's like, no, man, you don't want to do 2-step correction because that's not your skill set. That's not your client base. If that is your client base, then yeah, you should have that there. But I'm asking you, who would you sell that to today? Well, I don't have anybody yet. It's like, so why have it? Just relax. I mean, just simplify things. And when you're not simple, you worry about that next guy because you're already thinking in the back of your head, my customers are confused. If this guy is doing it better than me, he's going to take my work. And it always comes from people trying to do too much. You're trying to do too much. Have a basic interior, basic exterior, maybe have a deluxe of those 2 things. Then have your 3 or 4 ceramic coating and correction packages. Be done. It's all encompassing. At that point in time, man, you don't even have 10 different things somebody can buy. They're not going to be confused. And Brian has seen this. Marty, you've seen this. I've seen this. We've talked to people. They're trying to do too much, and then they think their pricing's out of whack, and their pricing's not out of whack. The customer's confused.
Yeah, it's tough to, I don't know how these guys sell stuff. How do you have in your head all these add-ons when you're trying to just talk to a customer? It's hard enough. Everybody struggles with selling to a customer a job. And then you have, well, we got this, we got to add this, and then you got to remember pricing for that. It's almost impossible to have a conversation with a customer when there's 15 things you got to include. And the customer can't take all that in because they're just trying to figure out what ceramic coating is, or, what a 1 or 3 or 5 year difference is. And then there's all these other things we got to add. Well, do you want 1-step paint polishing? When most customers don't, you got to explain what paint polishing is. And to sit there and then want to add 2 steps of that, and they only know what the first step is.
And they don't see what you're talking about.
Yeah, like, we have no clue where it's at.
Don't you see, we're going to remove all this off your paint. And they're going, remove what? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see anything. My paint looks great.
Right, yeah. And it gets to be a lot. And people get frustrated with it. Well, no, I got to get paid for what I'm doing and this and that. I guess where I really it made it much easier for me when I got into the boat world. So we charge by the foot for boats, and it's just by foot. The jumps up price, go 23, then from 23 to 27, then 28 to 33. We just change prices. Now, in that range of a 28 to a 33 foot boat, there's a lot of difference in those boats' possibility. There could be, towers, this and that, but it's all included because you win some, you lose some. Because it's not worth sitting there being like, well, we're going to measure this part, or we're going to do this. Does it have these poles? It's just a flat rate, and you win some, lose some. It's no different doing cars. Like Nick said, okay, I'm getting banged on this dog hair, and either I got to just wash my hands of this, or I got to eat it. Because the next full detail, it might just need a vacuum and, wipe down the leather. Well, I'm still charging my, $500-$600, and I did good on that one.
Well, Nick, there becomes a little bit of a head scratcher, right? As we all work with customers, we all deal with things, we think things go back. We're like, sometimes even you and I have gone, well, this just is odd. Let's go back to my illustration in a sense as I look at some of these people that are on my wall, some of the people that even listen, right? So I look at some of these guys and I go, you and I have gone, why in the world did they make this decision? The flip of the coin is I look at it and I go, there's a guy like DJD who has continued to stay, has continued to journey, continued to keep trying, continued to push. And recently on a community pub, you guys got to talk for probably 30 to 45 minutes about this amazing car collection that he's now gotten to take over. And here's the head scratcher part, which he gets to bring himself into, which you acknowledged is, hey, you got to see it firsthand of a detailer who fucked something up, right? Like, completely messed all that whole thing up. And now Derek gets to take over, and I'm thrilled. I look at a couple other people on there, and I see some of their journey, and I see them progressing. And I go, so this week I got asked a question. Got asked by, one of our sales guys. And he asked a question from one of his prospects. His prospect goes, hey, is there a program? Because I know a lot of detailers around that are struggling, that need a program. I go, absolutely, yes. The program is the podcast, is the pub, is the going into the specialist group. Like, you look at the people that are in the group doing well. You look at the people on this poster that are doing well. They stayed with it. They kept going. They did what is recommended, right? They did what you and I talked about. And you and I will sometimes just go, God, like head scratcher of some things people that do.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it and you start talking about the collection world. There's all these misconceptions of, I'm going to get into the collection world and I'm going to have to do all these things. No, I literally said, show up on time and do what they approve you to do. He's like, no. What did he say on the pub? He's like, yeah, that's exactly what the guy said to me. I'm like, yeah, man, because people try to do too much. They just want somebody reliable. They just want somebody that's doing a good job. They just want somebody that's going to do what they say they're going to do, because these are extremely busy individuals. They don't have time to babysit you. They don't have time to get involved in all this. They just want to drive a clean car. Maybe some of them want PPF. Maybe some of them want paint correction. Maybe some of them just want you to do a waterless or rinseless wash on their car and vacuum it out and call it good. Could be the rarest car in the world. That may be what they want. And so you get into this place, and I think we all know this, where what you're really trying to accomplish is, what does that customer want? Right? What does that individual want? And what you're saying is, you're looking up on the wall of all these detailers that have come and gone, and most of them that have stayed have gotten the opportunity to do what? Plug into the specialist group, plug into the podcast, plug into these resources. And when they've actually done what so many people are doing, they have success. You're talking about this guy saying, I got a lot of people around me struggling. First question be, why are they struggling? People want a clean car. Why are they struggling? But what are they plugged into? What is the information they're listening to? Where are they getting any type of information about the industry, about what they're trying to do? We all have a laugh about what goes on in most detailing Facebook groups. We have a laugh about it. There's text chains going back and forth. We make jokes, but in a sense, it's kind of sad, because you go, You're over here spending time in this group when there's other groups that you could be in that could actually help you have success at this. And so this idea that there's no good things going on in Facebook groups or things like podcasts, there are. Now they're few and far between. There's a lot of bad, but that doesn't mean there isn't great out there as well. And so when you talk to this guy, Marshall, the thing you said was plug into the resources that are there. Plug into people, 60 combined years just on this podcast alone of in the detailing industry. Plug into the right people. You then use your common sense on top of plugging in to those resources. And that's the part oftentimes that is left out, right? At some point, you're going to have to make a decision. And you're going to have to go in a direction, and you're going to have to follow certain people. Are you going to do it right? Are you going to use your common sense? I don't know.
Yeah, it's no different than you're sitting there as we started off with, feeling bad for a customer. You're feeling bad for a customer at a dealership who made a poor decision, trusting dealership they're going to do something that looks like they might not have done. Well, in business, it's the same thing. You can only feel bad for these guys for so long that are struggling for a long time. And, it's over and over again. It's then becomes years of, I don't have work, I can't get this, or I can't do that. When you've explained to them what to do and they continue to have the same problems, there's a personal responsibility there. You can only worry about it so much, and you can't feel bad for the guys that are having a hard time. Nick and I have talked about this. Anybody coming out of the past 3 years who had a bad year last year, there's something off. And there are large companies that have this issue, and there are small companies that have this issue. It does not make any sense why after last year and the 2 years prior, you would be having a hard time with anything when you probably had more opportunity than ever to build up a nest egg per se, or, really have some real money to, okay, let's really structure this to a better setting for my company, or move into something else, or another, whether you're going to start selling chemicals or take on, window tint, PPF, something like that. But the past 3 years has been something we've never seen before. And to have guys struggling all of a sudden the past 3 months, there's just something off, that either they're not listening to people, or they're getting bad information, or trusting bad information, or not doing your due diligence. It's no different than going in the car dealership, signing that paperwork and saying, yeah, I'm good with all this, than having a serious issue with it. You didn't really get taken advantage of. You kind of did it to yourself. There's just too much information out there that you can really use common sense, like Nick said, and see what's bad and what's good. It doesn't take long to figure something out. You can try something for 3 months, and you should be able to 2-3 months figure out, yeah, that wasn't a good idea. I shouldn't have done what this person said, or, it's really not working for my company. But a lot of these guys just keep going down the road, and you really got to make good judgment on some of this. And like we've talked about before, maybe business just isn't for you, and you go work for somebody else and love detailing and make good money detailing for somebody. You get to go home at 5:00 and don't have to worry about anything, and then call it a day and go back tomorrow and have fun detailing if that's what you enjoy. But you do got to take
let's talk about common sense. So people will hear that, and it's often a broad term, but let's dive into this. Brian sent me a clip that I then sent to Marshall from a podcast where somebody got on there and started hyping up this unreleased lifetime coating. You guys aren't going to believe it. The host of that podcast, no pushback. So now you have 3 individuals on a podcast talking about this lifetime coating as if it's going to change the game. Here's where common sense comes in.
Game changer.
Yeah. PPG, DuPont, they've been making paint for 100 years. They've spent billions of dollars painting cars, if not trillions of dollars at this point, developing paint systems for cars, for anything. Have you ever heard of a lifetime paint system for any application? Industrial, cars, planes, boats. There's literally been trillions of dollars spent with 1 million engineers trying to engineer a better paint system. There's no such thing as a lifetime paint system. But 2 boneheads making a coating are going to figure it all out how to make something lifetime. That's right. The common sense part. Where you go, okay, PPG can't do it, DuPont can't do it, but Jimmy Joe over here, they can do it. They can now make something that protects paint for a lifetime, but they can't build a paint system that's lifetime. Something doesn't add up. So I'm out on that. They have every right to build it, but when I use my common sense, it doesn't add up. If you don't do the second step, that's common sense, you are going to go down a road that may be irreversible in your business. You may not come out of that. And you'll come back and you'll say, there was no customers, there was no this, there was no that, I was treated unfairly, but you never took the second step to go, let me think about this lifetime coating thing. So you didn't put the effort in to, and again, go into a reputable Facebook group like The Specialist, or reach out by email to somebody like Brian, or, hey, I heard of this thing, I'm a little uneducated, can you help me out? Right? You didn't do any of those steps, but you started putting lifetime coatings on cars, and you never thought to yourself, damn, DuPont's pretty smart. Why don't they have a lifetime paint system?
Nick, we got to pause here for a second. Because, there's a lot of people listening that are going to go, hey, hold on a second here, man. We were talking about other customers. We were talking about all these people, and they didn't read the fine print. They didn't read yeah, man, that's their fault. Hold on, Nick. You just basically called each of us out. Ooh, so let's pause for a second here. Personal responsibility is a word Brian used a second ago. Great word, Brian. Great word. Nick, are you saying each of us have a personal responsibility here?
Well, yeah, I mean, what else is there? Your customer's paying for you to be responsible with their car, right? So customer brings you a car, you go to a customer's house or office to work on their car, they're assuming you've done the legwork they haven't done, right? That's the number one reason they're hiring a detailer. They don't know how to do it, or they don't want to do it. So they're relying on you have done your homework. Brian's done his homework. Marshall's done his homework. Nick's done his homework. Now you're telling them, I got this product for you that's lifetime. You didn't tell them all the fine print because actually you never read the fine print. We saw another post in the Specialist group about a manufacturer of coatings who's changing a lot of the fine print in their third-party administrated warranty.
Oh, wow. Wait, what?
Well,
somebody just changed fine print and a warranty? Are you kidding me?
We're shocked, right? But we actually had that company on here and displayed for the world that their business model was completely counterintuitive to everything we're supposed to be doing in this industry. You guys can go listen to that episode. We referred to that episode. Go research it. And there comes a point in time where, look, man, it's my job to be in business with good companies, just like it's everyone else's job for whatever they do. If you hire a plumber, you're assuming he's going and getting good fittings from a good company so you don't have a leak in your house. You're assuming that because you hired a reputable plumber. Now, what happens if that guy is buying some cheap fittings and your house gets flooded during Christmas? You're going to be pretty upset. And you're going to want that guy to take responsibility, right? You're not going to want to take responsibility. I didn't tell you to use cheap fittings. I didn't tell you to do this or do that. You told me you knew what you were doing. So in every aspect of our life, we're telling people to do the work they're being paid to do. But then when we're paid to be the ones on the hook, we want to say, well, we didn't know. I just told you the common sense approach to coating should be, am I in business with a good company? Have I used their coatings and are they working? And we have people all the time. Brian, shared something with me. A guy knows a 10-year coating is not lasting 10 years. We've had these same phone calls. Oh, I don't sell it like that. Oh, I sell it as this. So you're already backing down on what the manufacturer told you. So you already don't trust the manufacturer and you're slapping it on cars. That isn't on anybody else at that point. I get it, man. We all can get drug into things where we didn't know the whole story. And that's just called making a mistake in business. But there are people that make mistakes over and over and over again because they don't look for viable people to be in business with, because maybe they don't want to pay the price it costs. Maybe they don't want to change their behavior. Maybe whatever the reason may be. And we continue to have these conversations in our industry about what's going to take the industry to the next level. Well, if you think lifetime coatings is going to take your business to the next level or better the industry, it's not going to happen, because they're not going to be lifetime coatings. There's not a person on this podcast right now that thinks that that's possible. If DuPont can't do it, I can't do it. I can tell you that right now. So you got to have some responsibility of the customer's paying you to do the right thing. And there's a lot encompassed in that. Who you're in business with, your processes and procedures, your pride, your process, the way you do things, the way you handle their car, all that goes into it. And it all just comes down to responsibility.
Yeah, and they find a lot of excuses to wash their hands of it too. Like, well, I'll give you lifetime coating, but, when it comes time, you didn't do this, 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 and that, which majority of the time wasn't disclosed. But then they want to also blame, you'll see them like, so-and-so said this was a lifetime or said it was 10-year or whatever the number, 8-year, and it didn't last that long. Oh, okay. Well, did you just start using it and telling everybody because that guy said it was great? You didn't try it out. You didn't, kind of test it a little bit. I mean, I think between all three of us, like, we haven't jumped around coating companies. We've tried tons of coatings, but we're not, 10 coating companies deep, 8 coating companies deep in our companies. And there's responsibility for that. The whole warranty thing, we've talked about it before, everybody has. You warranty your work as far as what you do as the company. If you tell somebody it's going to be this, then that's what it's going to be. Nobody else is there for you. No company is going to come in and fix this car. It's not Ford coming in being like, well, yeah, we'll take care of that. The wheels fell off. It's your responsibility. That customer, like Nick said, trusted you to provide the service that you said you were going to give, and you need to stand behind it. So if you have all the faith in the world of what you're selling, then stand by it. But you don't see that. There's so many stipulations. There's this and that. And the lifetime coating thing, the way it gets thrown around, that it's going to solve everybody's problem. And Nick and I talked about that briefly today, that a lot of these people just want something to solve their problem. They think that if I buy this or I do this, it's going to just fix everything in my company, and I don't have to worry about anything anymore because I've got this product now, and I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to do this because it's going to sell itself. The company said it's going to be this way, and I'll sell jobs. And I think that's where the 10-year and the lifetime and stuff like that really comes into, is people don't have confidence in what they're selling, so they want to use that to try to upsell. And I've talked to plenty of people like, well, I do that because, they're branding and I can offer a lifetime coating nobody else does, and that gets me a sale. Yeah, but what does that cost you? It can destroy your company, like Nick said, quickly, within years. Like just a couple of years, you can just be done. When you tell somebody something's lifetime and a year in, 2 years in, you're losing hydrophobics down rocker panels inside of the car, and it's supposed to be lifetime, that customer is not going to be very happy, and he's probably not going to give you a chance. We get plenty of customers coming in the door that, well, so-and-so did my car, it's supposed to be this number of years, and I've just hasn't really seen the last. I just want to use you guys. They didn't call that person that they used. They didn't call and gripe. They were just done. They just moved on. And now we're back to, the stealing customer things. Customers move on because they feel like they didn't get a good service for value of what they paid for. And you have to take responsibility for that. You sold that customer on the promise or the job, and you have to have confidence in what you're doing. And I think a lot of people, like Nick said, there's guys that know stuff isn't lasting, but they're still using it. It's wild.
Isn't it? It's the biggest head scratcher, I think, Nick. It's you as you're scratching your head right now, right? Like, for those that are watching on YouTube, Nick literally scratched his head right as we were talking about. Yeah, it's confusing. Like, why would somebody do that? What's your opinion? Why do you think that somebody knows that? Because you've had it, I've had it. Listen, I've got people that have. I love it when they'll have discussions when you're talking to them. They're like, yeah, but this guy's dad built the company and they did all this, and I know that it's good stuff. And then I love the videos where they're throwing the shit away in the trash. And they're like, hey, once they experienced a craft product, they can see it. But for some reason, there's a head-scratching moment where you go, how did you – what? Like,
well, I think we all know the number one reason is price. They don't want to pay – for a quality product. This happens in tint. Tint's probably way worse than ceramic coating, believe it or not. Tint, PPF, ceramic coating, base chemicals of cleaning a car. It happens across the frickin' board. I want to save $10 on this bottle. This company's $10 higher. We had a YouTube situation, Marty, where the guy tried to list out all these companies well, they're cheaper than you and this and that. And, if your guys' was cheaper, I'd use it. It's like, dude, you're using all the language of this isn't going to work for you because you're trying to save $10. You're trying to save $15. Even if you're saving $50 on a coating job, most guys are charging $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 on coating jobs. What's $50? Because most guys are doing it themselves or have one team member. What are you really saving? And what you're saying to the world, and you don't really understand you're saying this, and I think we've kind of hit on this in different ways today. You're telling the world that's going to do business with you that you don't care enough to do it the right way. And at the end of the day, that catches up sometime. Could be a year in, could be 2 years in, could be 3 or 4 years in. But sooner or later, it's going to catch you. And when it catches you, you may not be able to reverse out of it. Maybe too long. It may just be too much damage to your business, right? It just could be flat out, you have no way of backing out of it. So you ruined a business over 10, 15, $20 at a clip when you were making hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every time you were making that decision. That's why guys do it. Guys do it because they want cheap, or the buddy they know uses that brand. And
detail groupie?
Or it's a groupie.
Exactly. Oh, well, this guy uses it, so I know it's good. Well, first of all, you don't run that guy's business. You don't know who that is. He could be your friend. I have a lot of friends in this business that I wouldn't do the things they're doing. Doesn't mean I can't be friends with them. Just means I'm not going to run my business the way they run their business. That doesn't make them right or wrong or me right or wrong. But I'm not going to do some of the things that they do. And that's how this world goes around. But I think you start talking about this lifetime coating thing, that if this catches fire, it's going to do so much damage to so many businesses and damage so many customers, that these are the things we don't talk about as cancerous to this whole thing. Cancerous to the car enthusiasts, cancerous to the businesses, cancerous to the industry as a whole, and it goes at the credibility of everybody. If this thing were to catch on, I don't think it will, obviously, but if it caught on, the amount of damage it would do could be irreversible. And we've had these situations in detailing for literally the last 20 or 30 years where, like Brian said, everybody's trying to find something that's going to solve this big problem. If we all just did reputable work, if 100% of businesses did reputable work, auto detailing would be what? 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times the size it is right now? I mean, what's the number? We'd be infinitely bigger as an industry if we just said everyone did the right thing, everybody'd be better off. But that's a lot to ask for a lot of guys.
That's a lot to ask. And it sounds amazing, right? And I think the biggest key word there is you said if. We don't stay in if and in the gray, right? You're right. It'd be wonderful. Everybody's happy. If doesn't really happen. So let's go black and white, right? Let's go straight to the core of it. Because a lot of people are questioning right now as they're thinking about it. They're going, hold on. And they're going to fill in their blanks of all the stuff that they're going to try and push back in their mindset. So let's really dive into personal responsibility. So the people that are listening, as they start going through those things that go through their mind, they go, okay, instead of letting those things control like these guys were just talking about, how do I take personal responsibility for stuff going inside of my business, inside of my life, inside of my customers, inside of my world? All right? If you want to control your world, listener, you got to understand personal responsibility, as Brian said. Wow. Okay. So what is, in your guys' opinion, let's just define, what is personal responsibility?
I mean, people have to realize it can cost you everything, but your personal responsibility is to give the best service to the customer that you can. And you are. A lot of guys don't. They're like, well, I can get away with this. We do a lot of contract work. So we do, our boat contracts are larger companies. We do some commercial work for, heating air companies, stuff like that. And it's a different world when you do work for these larger companies and their bigger contracts. You kind of have to drop what you're doing when you need to give them proper service. They expect that service. If you're going to come and go, can't show up on time, you can't be reliable, your price is always changing, then they're not going to stick with you and you're going to lose them. And people don't see that. I've gotten grief tons of times with, I'll drop what I'm doing in the middle of the day, customer call with a big contract. Hey, we just got this van in, or we just got this boat in. I need you guys here today to take care of this. Okay, I'm going to make it happen, because that's what you do. That's what you have to. But most guys are like, well, I'm not letting them dictate my schedule or my time. And, this is what I do. And they'll just have to wait. And it might be a third of their revenue for the year. And they just still don't care, and they don't worry about it. And it's kind of crazy, but that's your personal responsibility. You need to provide the best service to a customer that they are paying for. And some customers pay a lot more than others. I mean, it doesn't mean you neglect other customers, but there's just a different tier. But a lot of people get complacent that, man, these guys, they're great. They pay me all this money. I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, and they'll be fine. They're always going to use me. It's not the case. These large companies don't want to deal with anything. They want somebody to show up. They don't even most of the time want to talk to you. They want to be able to email you a schedule, or know that you're going to be there every day on a Tuesday, and this is what's going to happen, and it's going to be taken care of. And if there's an issue that you're going to take care of it, I'm sure like Nick sees with his guys, they might spot something on a car. Hey, we're going to get this taken care of for you, that they might not know was there. That's what customers appreciate. But when you start fiddling with being cheap and trying to save money and using improper chemicals to save $1 or to make you think it works faster, it can cost you. It can cost you whether you spray a caustic chemical on, a paint or some metal and etch it and destroy it, and it has to be fixed. Sometimes those customers don't say anything. They just walk away. They're not going to let you know they're upset. They're not going to let you know they're bothered, but they're going to know that something happened, and they're going to move on. And you're going to be like, well, I got, this happened or this, that. And you have to, most of these guys know what's going on. They know what they did. They know that but it's cheaper. I had a cheaper product, and I had this, and, this worked faster, but I know it can be dangerous. You have to take personal responsibility for that. And if that does happen, it happens. I mean, we've talked about burning wheels, talked about burning, front ends of paints, for years starting off. You got to fix it. You got to spot what happened, fix what happened, no matter what it takes, write the incident, and then correct it with the customer and move on. But a lot of these guys don't. They're like, they're good. They do a ton of work. They'll be fine. They're buddies, or, nobody else is going to do this work. You have to take personal responsibility for your actions and fix things that do happen, because it's going to happen. You see it in the groups a lot. Hey, I just fried this door panel. I mean, it's toast. Yeah. What can I do with this? Man, throw some WD-40 on it. Or I think Nick showed me one. The guy said, just turn your phone off, block his number. Block his number so he doesn't call.
Yeah, and these guys will see the same chemical. If they search that chemical in this group, they'll see door panels screwed up.
Right. Yeah.
And then they'll buy that chemical, and then they'll be 5 days later complaining about burning a door panel. Well, why? It's a cheap chemical. They want to pay cheap. And so there's no personal responsibility. I'll sum it up really simply. Everything's on you. If you think this works any other way, you're just screwing yourself over. I don't care if you have team members and your team members screw up. It's not on them. If you think it's on them, you've lost the war, man. It's on you, the owner. If you're out there taking care of your car as an enthusiast and you screw something up, you can be pissed at a chemical company, but it's on you. You're going to have to pay to have that wheel fixed, or you're going to have to pay somebody to fix your paint, or you're going to have to pay somebody to fix your interior. It's all on you. You walk into Walmart and you purchase something, that's on you. You do anything in life, period, point blank, end of story, it's on you. I mean, we had a DUI incident where somebody hit my family. Guess who's having to take responsibility and get the car fixed while insurance figures this out? I can tell you who it's not, the insurance companies. It's on me. And that's the important thing of running a successful business is I need the money to take care of my cars, my family, get them back on the road. Because guess what? It's my responsibility. It's my car. Now, will insurance figure this out in the next 12 months? God, I hope so. But there's a 30 or 40% chance that this is costing money out of my pocket because some guy was driving around a parking lot under the influence. Doesn't matter if it's your business. Doesn't matter if it's your personal life. This shit falls on you, man. It falls on me. It falls on Brian. It falls on Marshall. It falls on everybody listening to this. So you got to walk through life as though, and especially your detailing business or taking care of your own cars, if you don't do the research on the chemical companies you're in business with, the PPF companies you're in business with, the tint companies you're in business with, that's not on anybody else. It's not. Like Brian said, we can make chemicals. And let me make something clear about when we keep saying dangerous chemicals. Marty and I can build chemicals that'll clean a car so fast it'll make your head spin. It'll also burn trim off your car. Okay.
You also use flashy marks when you spray it. You'll see this flash.
Make no mistake. I can make it so you can clean an interior in 10 seconds. But if it's the wrong plastic and it got made this way, it's going to turn white. But you got done real quick. So when you make chemicals, I can make chemicals. We all worked with wheel acid. Nothing ever worked as fast or as well as wheel acid. Period, point blank, end of story. But boy, oh boy, when you breathed it in, when you got it on your skin, and when it dried on the wheels or flashed on the wheels, the whole thing was cooked.
Or if you spray it on a Ferrari rims, and now then I have to replace 4 brand new Ferrari rims.
Yeah. So when you guys hear this stuff and you think that making chemicals isn't scientific, that's exactly what it is. Because you have to think about something. I'm going to spray bugs off of a front end. I can fry bugs off, Brian. You know this. I can fry bugs off a front end in 2 seconds. Okay? I can build a chemical right now that if you sprayed it on a bug, the bug would just come right off. But if it dried or it hit hot paint, it would also leave a big splatter of the chemical. And now I have damaged fried paint, damaged trim, whatever the case is that I sprayed it on. And so when you go and you buy a chemical, your thought process shouldn't be what's the cheapest. The cheapest should throw a warning sign in your face and go, okay, what's the catch here? What's the catch of saving money on this? Is the catch of I can burn off paint, I can burn the wheels, I can burn the interior, that's the bells that should go off in your head. But as we all know, when you put the responsibility on the person you're purchasing it from, instead of you doing a little bit of common sense thinking through it, you kind of check out and you go, well, that's a reputable company. Why would they sell that? Well, you also paid $10 for a gallon or $15 for a gallon, and you never thought to yourself, what's the drawback of that? Well, the drawback is cheaper ingredients, cheaper chemistry, harsher chemical, i.e., you have the chance to damage something on the car. And that's personal responsibility in a nutshell.
All right. For those of you that were similar to me, and there's a lot of us in the industry that we go, I want to be the boss, so I'm going to be the boss. Welcome to being a boss. Hey, number one rule in being a boss, you are the one responsible. There is zero anybody else that you can say you're at fault, right? Once you're the boss and you're the guy, maybe this is hard for some of you to internalize and to swallow, but hey, look yourself in the mirror, whether you're in a car or whether you're working on somebody else's car and you want to look in the reflection, whatever it is, you need to look at yourself and go, you're the boss. This is what you wanted. So now it's time for you to deal with it. And that part is, I think, one of the most difficult things for any young to, doesn't matter if you're old in age, but just young in business. I think somebody young in business really has a difficult time dealing with that, especially if they work for somebody else. All good if you did. Once again, to Brian's point earlier, to Nick's point on a regular basis, like if you struggle with something in business, and this is a monumental business thing, maybe you should go get another job. Actually take a job instead of trying to be the boss. Maybe you should detail as a side boss once you've clocked out. Absolutely 100% okay. I love and respect everybody that does that. But if you say, I want to be the boss, I don't want anybody else to tell me what to do, welcome to one of the hardest things, and it will define you actually as a boss, as an owner. It will define your career out if you do not take hold of personal responsibility for actually 100% of every action you do. Most don't really actually get to that point of acknowledging it. So if you want to continue in this episode, you need to make sure that you acknowledge 100% of every action you do is yours. It's not a customer. It's not a competition. It's not anything else that's been talked about. Everything that happens in your business, pluses or minuses, is your fault. Nick, I even told you last night, hey, I went through this 3-hour discussion with people, a guy that I'm working with. And at the end of it, I told him, hey, man, if we don't get this, it's your fault and it's my fault. Ultimately, it ends up on me. This is my fault if this doesn't work. Therein lies as the journey and the progression, if you want to say, what's that word everybody always uses as you, mature.
Yeah.
As you mature in business, you must get to a point where you take every action that goes on as your responsibility. And wow, that's a lot to absorb, Brian. A lot to absorb.
But I think the maturity level also is that if you take responsibility for it, but it needs to be fixed. You need to have a solution. You see these guys, it's over and over and over. Okay, well, I went from this one. Well, this one's cheap too, but it's different, so it might be safe. The maturity level is to fix those issues. And we've talked about, look, we've all screwed up stuff. We've all had problems. It's part of business. We broke this, we did this, or we had a bad system. We were doing it wrong, completely wrong, doing it one way or another, but we fixed it. But you have to be able to fix it and be willing to fix it and have the money to fix it and not just be like, well, we do it because it's cheap this way, whether it's even not even product. It's just, we do it this way because it's cheaper and it's quicker, or I'm lazy, or, that's your responsibility, but you have to be mature enough. Okay, I need to fix this. It's been an issue. I mean, we have it in our business constantly. We're having some stuff now we're going through that needs to be fixed, but you have to be able to do it. If you're not going to fix it, don't sit there and gripe. Don't complain that I don't have work, or we don't have this. Well, probably because customers aren't coming back. If you don't have work and you had work, there's something going on because you have customers because you did work. But if you're starting not to have work, then those customers are not coming back for some reason. And it's not because, well, they haven't bought a new car, or, I put a lifetime coating on. Those customers aren't coming back for a reason. You need to figure that out. And it's humbling at times, and it can hurt your feelings that if somebody's honest with you that does have a problem. But you see a lot of these people post stuff, be like, look at this jerk, look at what he sent me. I can't believe he treated me this way or talked to me this way or this and that. No, they're being honest with you. And you're lucky they were actually honest. Anytime someone calls me to complain about a situation, I'm very thankful. I want to make sure they understand. Thank you for calling us. Thank you for letting us know. There's a lot of people just wouldn't talk to us. We're going to rectify it. Even if you don't come back, thank you for calling and let us know that there was an issue. There's something wrong with what happened with the service, because it needs to be fixed to keep growing.
Hey, here's a cool one. Brian, when you had an issue with the way we delivered product to you, what did you do? You reached out to me, and then what did we do here? We did absolutely everything we could to fix the problem. Now,
absolutely.
Is that a little bit of a journey? It is. It's a journey. But if I didn't ever take responsibility for you receiving boxes that had a little bit of crush or some problems in the delivery, I could have blamed the delivery guy. I could have blamed the trucking company. But Nick and we said, okay, how do we put our heads together and solve this problem? How do we get to a Black Friday and have one damage?
Wow.
Yep. One damage on all those orders, only one damage. It's only because you take personal responsibility for something that happens. Now, let's dive into some of this as we kind of close out, right? Let's dive into some very specific things, okay? Because listeners are going to want to know, well, how does it really tie into me? Love it. Love it. Hey, Nick, you talked to me about you were at a restaurant you couldn't believe the prices. Listen, all of us hear from our wives or whoever does the shopping. Wow, can you believe the prices of this? Hey, can you believe the prices of that? Okay, yes. As the rest of the world changes, I have a personal responsibility to my family and to provide for them despite the amount of prices that are going on. At the same time, I have a personal responsibility to my customers to have product on my shelf so that when they order it or when they're asking questions about it, I can actually sell it to them. But a thing that many of us have difficulty with, which is why we do it Sparta, and I love this, you really saw this problem for people of keeping inventory, so we pre-planned it, is to put the responsibility onto the detailer. Hey, man, you order 2 bottles. Once that first bottle goes out, hey, you can now know, because you have a system, to order the second bottle. There's a lot of us that take the personal responsibility of providing for my family and letting them go out to eat and order whatever they want. Hey, my daughter wants her haircut and it costs $300. Hey, my kid wants listen, this is something here, right? Like, hey, we got this, we got that, right? My stepson wants this. My daughters want this. I know so many times my daughters have asked me for stuff and I've had to tell them, hey, I know that everybody else has that. Right now, I wish that I could give it to you.
Yeah.
It's just not in the budget. Whoa, budget.
Yeah.
Nick,
Yeah.
Personal responsibility to hold a budget for my family so that my business will continue to have what it needs?
Yeah. I mean, we all know a lot of people inside and outside of detailing that live a lifestyle that they can't afford. And sooner or later that catches up to you. Brian and I joke about this. I mean, we must send texts back and forth consistently. I mean, you can go to a really, really below average restaurant and drop a lot of money. I mean, you can drop a lot of money. And
Your
it's
favorite,
nothing.
Chick-fil-A. If any of us go there and buy Chick-fil-A for our family, that's $50.
$50.
That's $40.
Yeah. And again, you want to get to a place in life where that's not a decision. And that's a great place to be. The vast majority of the population's not in that place, but they act as if they're in that place, right? They go and buy expensive tennis shoes because I'm a tennis shoe guy. I deserve this. Okay, well, then that means you took the $300 out of your business.
That is the word deserve. I deserve it.
I deserve this. And at the end of the day, man, I don't deserve anything. I deserve what I can afford. I deserve to drive the car that I can afford. But I also say this, there's a lot of guys that dream of owning a Ferrari, me being one of them. You got to do Ferrari shit to get a Ferrari, right? My customers that have Ferraris, they may be on the road 310 days a year. Yeah, it's on a private jet, but they're still working away from their family 300 plus days a year. You want to be home at 2:00 because you got kids. Well, they have kids. They've had to make a trade-off somewhere to get that thing. And eating out's an easy one to pick on. You know, Starbucks is an easy one to pick on. I don't think it's out of the realm that you could see a 4-person family, a guy with a detailing business, spend $500-600 a week eating out. Easily. I mean, that would be the low number. You know, because we know guys that go to lunch, then they go take their family to dinner 5 nights a week. And then they'll talk to us individually because we know them and go, man, I'm really in a financial pinch. It's like, buddy, you're spending, we haven't even gotten to your grocery bill yet. Just food alone on eating out is over $2,000 a month. Then you talk about you're spending another $200 to $400 a week on groceries. Dude, you're $3,500 into just eating.
Nick, I just
and then you want to blame the economy.
Man. My family deserves to eat like that. I just worked a hard week.
But I think you see a change. Like Nick and I talked about the eating out thing a little while ago. Even when you get to the point you have that money, it's not an issue to go do it, and you've worked like you have. You don't want to spend it on something like that. You know, we were talking about it. I was like, man, I don't want to go drop $150 to go eat at some chain restaurant with my family. I can, but I I've worked a lot to get to this point, and it's like I feel like that's a waste of money. But when you're working the 30 hours a week and you just got enough that, well, I made this much money, I got it, so I can go blow it. You got to look at, well, do you want to have a business long term? Do you want to, you want to grow your business? We talked about Google Ads before, what that costs, and that kind of stuff can change your business. But people are like, that's crazy. It's $2,500 a month. That's only $600 a week. You could be doing something like that.
Unpack that for a second. You just mentioned Google Ads. Here's a good thing. Maybe we can take that and go, should I weigh this paying for a ribeye instead of buying a sirloin because I need to spend that extra $15? And if I can continue to look at some of the things I buy, maybe if I buy personally just a little bit less, I'll spend it over on my business. I think that's what you said. I just want to make sure I clarify so that everybody understands.
Yeah. Taking that money and investing in your business instead of just, I don't think you got to be
cutting out some of your personal stuff so your business has enough.
We're talking about guys that don't want to spend $5 more for a bug cleaner or, it's tire dressing, and they'll walk into a gas station and spend $20 every morning. And it's like, how is that money so easily just thrown around for a energy drink and whatever, a biscuit and some Danishes every morning? But when it comes to buying a product for your company or investing in advertisement or anything, it's like you would think they were just asked for a lung or something. But then you go into a gas station, it's like $20, $15, whatever. I think Nick said it right the other day when I was talking to us. So if you need a bag when you go into a gas station, then you don't need to be buying what you're coming out with. But you see them every morning.
Hey, you need a bag, and these guys walk out. They got 15 things in there. Everything's $2. They just spent $30. And, you do that 5 days a week, it's $150. It's $600 a month you could have just put towards advertising. I think one of the things that guys don't realize when you run a business, if you run an LLC or you run an S Corp, which is what I think 99% of small businesses are declared as by the IRS, that goes to your personal finance. So that whatever your business makes, you're responsible for personally. So the IRS and the government are telling you that your business is a personal asset. So that means your personal finances are aligned with your business. So every dollar you spend, everything that you do is either for your business or for your personal, but they're intertwined. That's hard for guys to get through to themselves. I know it was hard for me early on in business to kind of understand that. So it's not a judgment. But if you're 5 years in business and you haven't learned that every dollar I spend personally is somehow affecting my business, positively or negatively, then you're not really understanding how this small business really works. And the IRS, not Nick, Marty, and Brian, is telling you how it works. They're telling you that your business is a personal asset, and whatever money you make is going to your personal bottom line, and you have to pay tax on it personally. That's how it works. That's not my opinion. So the reality is, how do I get myself, dude, I never advocate for people for 5 years spending no money and not enjoying life. Nobody advocates for that. But if I had years where I lived and had no real fun, yeah, I have. And I can't remember a single business owner that I've ever talked to that's now successful that can't point to a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year time frame where they risked everything. They risked personal relationships. They didn't take vacations. They didn't do things they couldn't do. And maybe they drove a car a little longer than they wanted to, or they did this a little bit, or they took a hobby and they just knocked it off their list. Hey, man, that hobby's too expensive for me to do right now. This is where you get into personal responsibility, but also the word sacrifice.
Oh,
what are you going to sacrifice, man? If you're not going to sacrifice time or money, don't own a business, because in a business, you're sacrificing both. And a lot of times it's for a pretty long period of time. I got a customer who's worth well over $1 billion now. You know what he's still risking? Time and money, 25 years into his business. And oh, by the way, he sold it for billions, rebought it back, and he's back on it again. He's got billions in the bank. This is how true business owners think. That's why we say, and I think Brian's brought up a lot on this, business ownership's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to tell somebody at the end of 2023 who's in business, the thing you should identify first when looking back on 2023, should I be in business? Is this for me? Because I promise you, man, find something that makes you happy. Business ownership makes me happy. I enjoy it. I didn't always enjoy it, but I got to a point of enjoyment. If you're 3 years in and you're miserable, this isn't for you. And I don't mean detailing. I mean business ownership. And it's perfectly okay to say, hey, man, this stuff makes me unhappy. I don't enjoy it. I'm going to go find a better way to make my way in the world. But a lot of guys, they're just going to go down with the Titanic, man. And it all comes down to they're not willing to sacrifice a little bit today for a lot of bit tomorrow. And that's what it all comes down to for me. And I think that's where I kind of end on all this.
Yeah. What can you do today to set yourself up for tomorrow? Oh, that's people can really dissect that all they want. All right. So, Brian, you've got a unique story that we want to dive into as we kind of close off.
I think we touched on a little bit about contract work and losing jobs because of the stuff you use. So it comes across us once in a while. We do have like I said, we do bigger contracts, and we do have, detailers that do work for large companies. And we've come across one recently where we're going to gang the contract probably because of a detailer who has used improper products, who's done damage to vehicles, or has not been not been on time, whether it's, not the same day, not regular, not seen in 3 weeks, and show up, twice in 1 week. And that's just going to transfer to us most likely. We see it quite often that guys just can't stick to a schedule with these bigger jobs. And it's simple. You just got to show up. I mean, that's the biggest part I tell anybody. I tell my kids, just show up on time, be 10 minutes early to be on time, and just do what you promise you're going to do. A lot of these guys they start a business because they don't want to be told what to do. They feel like, I'm not going to work for the man. And I start a business because, I want my own time, I'll be on my own schedule. When you do these bigger contract jobs, you're committed to it. You need to be there when you say you're going to be there. You need to provide a good service, using good products so you don't do damage. If damage is caused, you need to understand there's liability. Say it's a $20,000, $25,000 contract. You're going to have damage probably if you're using employees or if you're using improper products. That's fine if you want to risk it, but you're going to have to fix whatever happens. And some of this stuff can be costly. I mean, you talked about spraying, Ferrari wheels. Some of this stuff can happen when you start talking about working on, boats or tractor trailers. You can do some serious damage quickly. And then laziness also happens. These guys will get a year in on these big jobs and think nobody's looking over stuff. They think these owners are not real involved with their equipment. They're not real, I'm taking care of it. They don't really get it. They just get in and drive it, and they're going to see stuff. But when a customer sees stuff, it rubs them the wrong way because they thought everything was going to be taken care of. They trusted you that there was going to be no problems. And then once they see one thing that wasn't done, whether it's like a roof not getting washed or, fenders not being done or some damage on metal, then they start looking around and they start nitpicking, not being bad about it, but really, okay, let me look at some other vehicles. Let me see what else is going on. And it can cost you. And a lot of these companies can't afford that. It is very confusing how you can have a big contract in your company and you're willing not to just invest everything and to make sure you keep that, because some of these jobs you can get will cover a lot of your bills for the whole year. And then they just get complacent, like, I'll get there when I can. Yeah, I'll go on these days when I don't have any work and I'll just squeeze them in and get this because it's always there. They always have stuff for me to do. But that's not how it works. None of these big companies, Nick deals with it. None of these people want to be treated that way. They want to feel like they are the most important person in your company. And obviously you have to spread that across the board because they're not the only person you have in your company is big jobs. But most of those places want to feel that they are getting your top tier service and they are the most important company.
Why don't you think people go ahead and acknowledge that? Like, it is interesting, right? Like, as we said earlier, we look at some of these people on the boat, and Nick and I have over the years gone, no, that's a head scratcher, right? Like, well, why don't you think that if you got this massive account or you got this bit, like, why don't people just take it when we're a service-based company? You think people confuse the idea of service with I'm business, I do what I want, I'm the boss.
Yeah, I believe that and we're back to they think they deserve it. They think they deserve this work, and you're not going to get anybody else to do it, or I'm the one who does it, so they're not going to use somebody else. And my price is fairly cheap, but these companies don't care. They're willing to pay whatever. They just want a good job. And a lot of these guys go in cheap prices. And they're like, well, they're not going to use anybody else because I'm the cheapest guy around, and this and that. Then they start calling people up. Well, we'll pay you whatever. We just want this done. Want you to show up, and this and that, and we just have to have it done. And then they'll lose the job because they decided to take advantage of a customer. Or, I see some stuff where they overbill. The bills are sporadic. There's no rhyme or reason in some of the billing. And we see it across the board with, whether we're in boat dealerships or, trucking companies or, heating and air companies with vans. You see it where people just take advantage of some of this work because they think they won't notice. It's a big company. It's all fine. I'm just going to do this and that. And they treat it as like a little piggy bank. Like, well, I'll just go there when I need work. I'll get this done. And, and I don't really got to do that good of a job. I mean, because they're not paying me what. And that's another thing. We start charging that cheap price. They get the attitude, well, I don't got to do that good of work because I'm not really being paid for what
I just have to, do better than the car wash.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They're like, well, I'm not charging full price, so I don't really got to do all that, and then it gets you into trouble and it can cost you a lot and cost you your business. When you're a smaller company, when we talked about being in business, $125,000, if it's a $30,000 contract, that can be detrimental if that's what that company's relying on, that money to come in, because you're not going to go replace that. And a lot of these guys will chase, I talked to guys that want contracts. If you're going to get a contract, you have to be on call for them to do whatever. And they can't do that because they don't want to turn away the guy that calls for a 1-year ceramic coating. Well, this guy wants a 1-year ceramic coating on Thursday. I'm supposed to be over this contract on Thursday. Well, I'll just blow off the contract because I want to make that $700 that day, even though I was going to make $500 on that contract. But that $500 is every 2 days or every week. But this guy just called, so I don't want to lose that customer, so I'm going to go do that. And that's where you get into, if you're not going to be running employees or other trucks or a case of it, you need to make a decision whether you're going to go that full mini detail route, or you're going to do ceramic coating, or you're going to do contract work. As a 1-man or 2-man show, it's very hard to balance all that out, and you can get in a lot of trouble. You can push people around a little bit, but the problem is these guys start taking advantage of it. You take that big client, you push them off for a week. Well, I'll be there next week. Well, they were cool about it, so I got another job coming in. I'm going to push them off one more week because they haven't really called, or they don't seem that dirty, or they haven't really complained. Well, a lot of these companies, I want stuff done every week, or I want it done every 2 weeks, and they're very honest with you what they want. I want dump, pump, 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 and that's it. And guys take advantage of it after a while. They're like, well, they always pay. I just give them a bill and they pay. People get tired of that. And you have to really figure out what you want to do as a business owner. If you want to commit to whatever the case may be, whether it could be if you want to do PPF. I mean, it's hard. You can't sit there and do PPF and then think you're going to schedule jobs or washing vacuums during the day and just be a 1-man show. You're never going to be able to go to the next level because you've got too many things going on, and someone's going to pay as far as a customer. Someone's going to get bad work. Somebody's going to get the short end of the stick, and that gets around, and it can cost you dearly. But I've never understood why, when you have one of these big contracts or guaranteed money, how guys don't bend over backwards to satisfy these people, because that is your bread and butter. And these guys run it. I mean, Nick will tell you, these guys run in groups. I mean, these guys might not seem like they're out talking all the time and everything like that, but somebody sees, wow, who does this lot for you? Man, so-and-so always takes, man, your trucks always look good. Who does that for you?
The upper echelon people are always connected, right? Always. Yeah. Maybe lower, or people that are listening, like, you don't understand it. But listen, once you get up to an upper echelon, you are connected. Wonderful, wonderful insight. All right, closing thoughts. Nick?
I think you're ending 2023 here. I think a lot of people are talking about how tough 2024 is going to be for them. And I think you just heard a lot of reasons why they think that today. Because they haven't taken personal responsibility over their business and said, hey, whatever's going to happen here is going to happen. I'm going to control what I can control. I'm going to make adjustments. I may introduce a more affordable package. that I can make money on. I may go after, like Brian said, contracts. I may change some things. But you can only do that if you're always analyzing how your business can get better, how you can take care of your car better, whatever it is, right? There's a common thread amongst everybody that has success is that it's never good enough. That's what this all comes down to. I never think hyperCLEAN's doing good enough. I never think VR's doing good enough. I never think that. I always think there's something to fix, there's something to improve on, there's something to do, and we're never perfect. I'm not the perfect detailer. I don't have the perfect everything. I don't hang my hat on that. And I don't think a lot of successful business owners of any kind operate that way. They all operate of, we got to wake up and get better at something. I got to fix XYZ problem. I got to fix my advertising problem. I got to talk to these people, and I got to go after this contract, or, hey, I want to do more PPF. So I got to get in connected with what's going on in the PPF world in my area. And how do I go start talking to dealerships, or whatever the case may be. And the reason I think this is a good thing to stop on, at the end of the year, this will be pretty much our last podcast we'll record this year, is, man, I just want everybody to understand, if you take personal responsibility, stuff's going to work out for you. Doesn't mean you're not going to have bad times or bad quarters or bad years. But, if you think you're just going to walk around and it's going to be like it's been the last 3.5 to 4.5 years, that's gone. You can watch the desperation of big companies on YouTube putting out incoherent drivel where somebody looks like they're in a manic state of mind recording a video. You don't have to take my word for it. It's all over the internet, where somebody's having like a meltdown at SEMA and somebody's having a meltdown on a YouTube video or a podcast. They're not ready for what's coming. And I don't think 2024 is going to be the best of economic times. Maybe it turns out to be, but it's all on me. hyperCLEAN goes as me and Marty go. If we don't do a great job, then hyperCLEAN's going to suffer. And VR is going to suffer if I don't do the right things. It's not going to suffer because of my team. It's going to suffer because of me. And it's going to go well because of me. And a lot of times we get away from that. All of us are guilty of that, right? But the ones that have success don't get very far from that. It's always, I got to fix it. I got to get it better. We got to do this. I got to spend this money. And I'd be really prepared for 2024, 2025, 2026 not being as good as the previous 3 years. And so now you're going to have to be a good business operator to keep making probably similar money, But the great business operators are going to find ways to grow in the next 3 years, and that's going to be the separator. So take the personal responsibility, man. I've made a lot of mistakes, and they all fall on me, and I wish I didn't make a lot of them. Some of them I couldn't have avoided. Most of them I could have, let's be honest. And I didn't. And now I sit here and tell you, we have anything happen, it's on me, man. And that's the way it goes. So I hope that's what guys gather from today's episode.
Brian?
Yeah, I think I'm honestly kind of excited for 2024 because I think after you've been through like 2008 and you kind of see what you can make out of that, is that it's going to clear some people out, but the simple things are going to set you apart, like the showing up on time, just answering phone calls, adjusting and to any issues you have and stand above the rest. We started selling chemicals, I guess about maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And this past year, we've had numerous companies that we started doing the 1 year no paint polishing with, getting them into that. And it's cool. I get text messages from guys like, look, man, I've done like 40 of these this year or 30. Hey, how many of you guys done this and that? And those companies have exponentially grown that would have never done that this past year. That wasn't even on their radar, not something to do. One company didn't offer ceramic coating. And to see them grow exponentially that fast on something and easily is very cool. And I think 2024 is going to be where if you're willing to do that, you're willing to learn something that's not that hard to learn and accept that, we can do this and don't have to charge a ton of money, you're going to do very well. And it's going to separate you because you're going to see the downfall of the big, the $5,000 packages and all this, and all the crazy talk of lifetime coatings and stuff like that. I think 2024 is really going to separate a lot of people out that might not need to be in the business. And there's a lot of opportunity. If you just hang in there, work hard, and invest in yourself, there's so much opportunity in it. It's that when anybody that's gone through 08 and still in this business or any service business, you know that if you stick around and you double down and you work hard, there's so much opportunity, and it will separate you from so many other companies exponentially faster than you could ever expect it. So I think it'll be pretty neat. This past year, you need to also, like Nick said, look at, did I not make as much money as I wanted to? Why didn't I make as much money as I wanted to? What were the reasonings? Because it's not customers. It's not, there's no work out there. Like Nick said, 50,000 people in a area. If you do 500 of those people, that's a huge business. And with ceramic coating or just detailing, even if you're just doing washes every 2 weeks for 500 customers, I mean, that's huge. And you need to figure out why you're not where you want to be, and reach out to somebody like me, or, go on the forums, kind of find somebody that you can see that's respectable, that you might respect. Reach out to them. And I don't have all the best information always. If I tell you something, take it with a grain of salt that, hey, I'm going to try this, but it's not gospel from me or anybody. You need to apply it and figure out if it works for you, but you need to make those adjustments fairly quickly. If something's not working, fix it. If something you're like, well, this doesn't work, this process, I don't like this, or this product, then just fix it. It might cost you some money. I see all the time on some of the forums, what do I do with all this stuff I got? I got, 10 bottles of this, and I'm like, throw it away. Just throw it away. If you have something that didn't work, throw it away. If you have a piece of equipment doesn't work, throw it away. Just get rid of it. Move on. You made a mistake. We all do it. And move on and grow with it. So I think 2024 is going to be pretty cool. It is going to be hairy. It's definitely not going to be like past 3 years. If you just started your business like during COVID, it's going to be a little different for everybody. But you just got to understand, you got to work hard and stick in there.
All right. I love it. Thank you so much. You mentioned something that I'm going to say in my closing thoughts. Is you talked about, hey, this point in time right now, wash, clay, and 1 year. We'd say wash, clay, uno. Even to the point of, right, Nick, you remember months ago, you were like, hey, dude, maybe we should slow down on saying that so much. It almost became too repetitive. All right. So my closing thoughts. How do you take personal responsibility? I took personal responsibility for people that might listen to me, listen to eventually us, Nick, and making sure that they have something available when times are tough. Because in 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 was the absolute best time you could ever be in the industry. To some of your guys' points, you guys talked about the past years, some people got in, everything was great. You get to these moments and people are going, what do I do? Okay. You want to know a practical thing of taking personal responsibility? Something I started doing, which I've talked about it. When you're driving, looking in the rearview mirror and focusing on yourself. Okay. Might be a little tough sometimes when you're thinking about stuff. What about when you brush your teeth? Here's my thing. If you want something practical to want to start figuring out how you take personal responsibility, you're going to have to get into your own mindset. You're going to have to start digging through personally what you deal with. That's a great time to do it. When you're looking in the mirror and brushing your teeth. Do you really need to think about up and down and how long you do? And sure, if you value your teeth and you value what your dentist says, you should floss. You should brush up and down. So you should do it because the dentist, who's the professional, is saying it. You know what else you should do? You should look at yourself in the mirror in your actual eyeball and start going over the tough conversations. That's what you should do. You should look at yourself in the mirror and say, is this best? Because while I brushed my teeth and I heard everybody else saying over the years, big coat, big light, yeah, but the practical thing that if I knew back then, which I did, and I said it out, and it's still true today, how practical is a wash, clay, and put a uno. Wash, clay, dos. Wash, clay. We don't want to do that further on. you run into some parts of your customer base. So a wash, a clay, and a protect. Guess what, everybody? First quarter next year, you're going to have even a better alternative to protect. So much money is going to be made by people who listen, look at themselves in the mirror, understand what Nick and I and Brian are saying, and then you're going to put it into practice. So brush your teeth and look at yourself in the mirror and go, okay, I need this. How do I do it? Wash, clay, uno. It is the package that will make you a lot of money, and it's the package that will take care of your customers, and it's the package that will continue to help you through and build everything that you want. So look at yourself in the mirror and begin to analyze what you're doing and how you're doing it. That's what I did, and that's what I recommend as my closing statement. Nick, Brian, wow. An hour and a half, in a sense, of some of the most in-depth things that people can look at in themselves and in their business, and learning how to take personal responsibility, from lifetime coatings to what customers do to anything that you can think of. The words that Brian and Nick have said hold key, hold value. They're gold. We have 60 plus years of experience. So now it's your, the listener, personal responsibility to use it. Brian, Nick, everybody have a Merry Christmas. And we're looking forward to an incredible 2024 inside of the hyperCLEAN community.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.